She looked like any other grad student ordering a beer. Plain flannel shirt, worn jeans, nothing that screamed military. Then a group of Navy SEALs at the corner table started joking loud enough for the whole bar to hear. Their leader smirked. "So, sweetheart, you got a call sign or just a student ID?" The woman smiled faintly, turned toward him, and said two words, "Phantom 6. The glass slipped from his hand, shattering against the floor. Laughter died. Every head in the bar turned, because that name wasn't a joke. It was a legend. A call sign whispered in classified briefings, the one that vanished after Yemen, the one even command thought was dead, and within minutes the man who mocked her would be calling his commander, because he'd just realized who he was talking to. If you believe respect should be earned, not assumed, hit that subscribe button and tell us where you're watching from, because this story will make you look twice at the quiet stranger sitting at the end of the bar. The night crowd at O'Malley's pub hummed with the usual Friday noise. Laughter, clinking glasses, a jukebox fighting to be heard over a dozen different conversations. The air smelled of fried wings and whiskey, a place where uniforms came off, but the stories of the day still hung heavy in the air. At the far end of the counter sat a woman no one noticed at first. Dr. Elena Price, early 30s, denim jacket, gray flannel, ponytail tucked low, the kind of woman who blended into a crowd. She scrolled her phone lazily, one hand wrapped around a half-empty bottle of Corona. Nothing about her screamed military. Nothing about her even hinted at it, which of course was the point. The bartender, Eddie, an old Marine with sleeves of faded tattoos, slid another napkin toward her. "Same as usual?" he asked. Elena gave a small nod. "You read my mind." She'd been coming to O'Malley's for months. Quiet, polite, never looking for attention. Eddie liked her because she tipped well and never asked for trouble. But that night, trouble didn't ask either. It walked right in. The door swung open hard enough to rattle the glassware. 4 Navy SEALs stormed in, young, loud, the kind of confidence that filled a room before they even ordered a drink. Their leader, Lieutenant Cole Matthews, was built like a statue. Sharp jaw, short fade, the kind of man used to being the loudest voice anywhere he went. "Round of beers," he barked. "Team 5's back on land. Boys." The bar cheered, mostly out of habit. Soldiers respected soldiers, and Cole wore his pride like armor. He spotted Elena out of the corner of his eye and smirked. A woman drinking alone in a military bar? That was too tempting a setup for a man like him. He grabbed his beer, walked over, and leaned against the counter beside her. "Well, this is a first," he said. "You don't look like the usual crowd in here." Elena didn't look up. "And you don't sound like someone used to being ignored." Cole chuckled, impressed. "Sharp tongue. You military?" "No," she said flatly. "Just tired." That answer wasn't enough for him. He gestured to her boots. Scuffed, military grade, the kind you didn't find in civilian stores. "Those tell a different story," he said. "Come on, everyone in here's got a past. What's yours?" Elena sighed. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." "Oh, I don't know," Cole said, voice dripping with charm. "I've heard some wild ones. Try me." The room around them had gone quieter. Eddie watched from behind the bar, tension building like static in the air. A few older vets at the tables exchanged glances. They'd seen this before. A man trying too hard. A woman trying not to care. Cole leaned closer. "Tell you what, let's make it fun. I'll guess your background. Civilian contractor, maybe? Defense intel? You've got that look. Smart but secretive." Elena smirked slightly. "You think too loud for an intel guy." "Okay," he said, pretending to think. "Then maybe you're one of those conflict resolution types. A diplomat. Peacemaker. You got that soft calm about you." Elena turned, eyes finally meeting his. Her gaze was steady, cold enough to freeze his grin mid-laugh. "Conflict resolution?" she repeated. "You could say that." Cole whistled softly. "You know, we've got our own kind of conflict resolution in the teams. Less paperwork, more explosions." That earned a few laughs from his teammates across the room. They'd started watching the exchange like a show. Cole raised his voice just enough for them to hear. "Hey, fellas, bet she's got a call sign too. What do you think? Peacekeeper? Bookworm?" The others chuckled, and Cole turned back to her. Come on, sweetheart, what's your call sign? Let's hear it. Eddie's hand froze mid-wipe on a glass. He glanced at her from under his brow. Something about the way he suddenly looked nervous made Cole pause, but only for a second. Elena set her drink down, very gently, and straightened her shoulders. When she spoke, her voice was calm, almost too calm. You really want to know? Cole grinned. Yeah, enlighten us. She didn't look away. Phantom 6. The words landed like a gunshot. The laughter died. Cole blinked, the grin draining from his face. The name hit him somewhere deep, in the place every SEAL kept the ghosts they didn't talk about. Excuse me, he said. Phantom 6, she repeated, her tone flat. Factual. You asked. Cole laughed nervously, but it didn't reach his eyes. That's funny. You know that call sign's classified, right? Doesn't exist. Eddie muttered under his breath. That's what they said about the ones who didn't come home. Cole's teammates shifted uncomfortably. The energy in the room had changed. Phantom 6 wasn't a random name. It was the kind of ghost story whispered in barracks and briefing rooms. An operator whose mission logs were sealed, whose record was erased, whose last known location was a firefight that no one survived. Cole tried to shake it off. All right, you got me. Good joke. You read that online somewhere? Elena's gaze didn't waver. I didn't read it, she said softly. I lived it. For the first time, Cole didn't have a comeback. He stared, waiting for some sign she was bluffing. A smirk, a laugh, something. But there was nothing, just quiet certainty in her eyes. One of his teammates whispered, Lieutenant, Phantom 6 was Yemen, 2019, the op that went dark. Cole turned sharply. That mission was classified top tier. Only JSOC knew the names. Maybe that's the point, the teammate murmured. Cole looked back at her, his voice lower now. You're telling me you were on Nightfall? Elena's fingers tapped once against her bottle. I was Nightfall. Eddie exhaled like a man who'd been holding his breath for too long. The bar was dead silent. No jukebox, no laughter, no noise. Just that quiet hum of realization crawling over every person in the room. Cole swallowed hard, his earlier swagger replaced by something else entirely. Respect mixed with disbelief. I thought everyone on that op died, Elena finished for him. We did. Some of us just forgot to stay that way. The silence broke when a phone started ringing at the corner table. It was Master Chief Ryder, retired SEAL, who'd been quietly watching from his booth. He was already dialing before Cole could move. Yeah, he muttered into the receiver. It's me. We've got a situation at O'Malley's. Phantom 6 is alive. The color drained from Cole's face. Elena reached for her jacket, finishing her beer with the same quiet calm she'd started with. You wanted a story, Lieutenant, she said as she stood. Now you're in it. Outside, a low rumble of approaching engines echoed through the night. Black SUVs, tinted windows, the kind that didn't belong to civilians. Eddie leaned across the counter, whispering, You might want to stay put, ma'am. Elena's eyes flicked toward the door. Too late for that. The handle turned. The door swung open, and every head in the bar turned as the first agent stepped inside. If you think respect is earned through silence, not swagger, comment respect down below. The agents who entered O'Malley's didn't wear uniforms, but they didn't need to. The bar knew the type. Men whose posture screamed discipline, whose silence weighed more than words. 3 of them, all in plain black jackets, scanning the room with precision. The crowd that had been rowdy minutes earlier went completely still. A few soldiers slid their drinks away, instinctively straightening in their seats. You didn't need to be told to show respect when the government sent ghosts to your bar. Lieutenant Cole Matthews tried to steady his breathing, but his pulse hammered in his ears. He couldn't look at her, at the quiet woman standing by the counter who had just said the words that shattered his world. Phantom 6. Eddie leaned against the bar, polishing a glass that didn't need it. His jaw was tight. Elena, he murmured, you sure you want to stay for this? She didn't answer. Her eyes tracked the lead agent, a woman with steel gray hair and the kind of presence that turned noise into silence. Captain Dana Walsh, JSOS liaison. Elena recognized her immediately. Ma'am, Walsh said softly as she approached. You've caused quite a stir tonight. Elena's lips twitched into something between a smirk and resignation. Wasn't my intention. Intentions don't matter when names like yours are spoken aloud, Walsh replied. You know that. Cole turned, finally finding his voice. Ma'am, with all due respect, what the hell is going on? She's a civilian. You're telling me she's... Walsh cut him off with a look sharp enough to draw blood. Lieutenant, I'm telling you to sit down. Cole obeyed before realizing he had. His men followed, glancing between each other, confusion and fear mixing in equal measure. No one moved but Elena, who stood calm and centered in the storm. Her expression was unreadable. Not defiant, not scared, just tired. The kind of tired that didn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying something too heavy for too long. Walsh gestured to the side door. We'll need privacy. Eddie started to protest, but Elena stopped him with a glance. It's all right. They're not here to hurt anyone. As the agents and Elena moved into the back office, the bar erupted in whispers. Phantom 6? No way, that op's classified. I heard she took on a compound alone. She's not supposed to exist. Cole sat at the counter staring blankly at his beer. Every story he'd ever told about valor, brotherhood, and missions gone, right suddenly felt hollow. He'd mocked a ghost, and she'd looked him in the eyes. Inside the office, Walsh closed the door behind them. The fluorescent light flickered faintly, painting the cramped room in harsh shadows. She stood across from Elena, hands clasped behind her back. We thought you were dead, she said finally. You were supposed to be dead. I was, Elena said simply. But ghosts don't die. We just stop showing up on rosters. Walsh studied her face, searching for something. Remorse, defiance, anything. You understand the kind of security breach this is. Your identity was buried for a reason. Elena shrugged slightly. I didn't tell him who I was. He asked a question. I answered. Walsh exhaled, pinching the bridge of her nose. And that one answer just triggered a dozen encrypted channels. Do you have any idea how many alarms light up when someone says Phantom 6 out loud? Sounds like your system still works, Elena said quietly. Her tone wasn't mocking, just matter of fact. The door cracked open behind them. Master Chief Ryder stepped in, his face pale but composed. Captain, he said, I called it in. Command's asking for confirmation. Walsh looked at Elena. They'll want to speak with you directly. I figured, Elena replied, rolling up her sleeve slightly, revealing faint scars along her wrist. The kind that told stories you didn't want to hear. Ryder hesitated. Ma'am, if I may, is it true? The stories? Yemen? Elena's eyes flicked to his. Depends which version you've heard, he swallowed. The one where 17 people made it home because you didn't. Her jaw clenched, just for a heartbeat. Then yeah. That one's true. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even Walsh's practiced composure wavered. Everyone in the room had read about that mission in fragments. A joint task force that had been ambushed. Extraction compromised. Officially, it was a strategic success with minor losses. Unofficially, it was hell on earth. Walsh cleared her throat, regaining her edge. Command will want you debriefed immediately. If you're alive, it means they'll need to adjust every file, every classified record. You understand that? Elena nodded once. I'm not here to reopen old wounds. I just wanted a drink. Walsh gave a thin smile. And yet somehow you turned a bar into a briefing room. Elena's lips curved faintly. Old habits. Outside, through the glass door, Cole and his team were watching. His knuckles were white around his beer. His teammate leaned in. You think it's real? Cole didn't look away. I think I'm looking at a woman whose name gets whispered in special operations rooms. And I just insulted her. Back inside, Walsh's phone buzzed. She answered, voice crisp. Yes, sir, confirmed. Identity visual and vocal. Phantom 6 is alive. She paused, listening, then added quietly, understood. She ended the call and looked at Elena with a new kind of weight in her expression. Respect mingled with caution. They're sending someone. He wants to talk to you himself. Elena raised an eyebrow. Who? Walsh hesitated. General McKenna. That name drew a reaction, even from her. For a split second, something flickered behind Elena's calm eyes. A memory, a ghost of a voice from a different desert, a different time. "McKenna's still in command?" she asked quietly. "Still running JSOC," Walsh confirmed. "And he doesn't take surprises well." Elena nodded slowly. "Then you better buy him a drink." A knock interrupted them. Eddie poked his head in nervously. Captain? You might want to step outside." Walsh frowned. "Why?" Eddie swallowed. "Because the bar's full of uniforms now, and none of them look happy." They stepped back into the main room to find 3 more SEAL teams gathered. Word had spread. You could feel the tension, the mix of disbelief and reverence. Men who'd thought they'd seen everything now staring at the woman who wasn't supposed to exist. Cole stood first, his chair scraping against the floor. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady but low, "if you're really Phantom 6, then I owe you an apology." Elena tilted her head. "You don't owe me anything, Lieutenant. You just learned something tonight. So did I." "What's that?" he asked. "That some ghosts don't fade," she said. "They just learn how to live among the living." The words hung heavy in the air, quieting even the whispers. For a moment, it felt like everyone in the bar understood. The weight of it, the meaning behind the legend. Then the door opened again. A black SUV idled outside, engine rumbling low. Captain Walsh glanced at her phone, then at Elena. "He's here." Eddie's eyes darted between them nervously. "Who's here exactly?" Elena exhaled slowly. "The man who sent me to die." Every head turned toward the doorway as General McKenna stepped inside. Gray hair, sharp eyes, the kind of presence that made hardened men straighten their backs instinctively. The old ghost and the man who made her one were about to meet again. The moment General McKenna stepped into O'Malley's, the air changed. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence carried the weight of too many operations, too many secrets, and the kind of authority that made soldiers straighten even when off duty. Every man in the room seemed to shrink except one. Elena didn't move. Their eyes locked across the bar. 10 feet of silence stretched between them, thick with history. For the first time that night, her composure cracked, if only slightly. McKenna's voice came low, measured, but with the unmistakable edge of command. "Everyone else, clear the room." No one hesitated. Even Captain Walsh gestured for her agents to step outside. Within 30 seconds, the bar was empty except for 2 figures. One ghost, one general. And Eddie behind the counter, frozen like a man who'd wandered into the middle of something he wasn't meant to hear. McKenna's boots echoed as he crossed the floor. Up close, he looked older, silver creeping through his cropped hair, lines carved deep into his face. But the eyes were the same, sharp, cold. "You're supposed to be dead," he said. Elena took a slow breath. "That seems to be everyone's opening line tonight." "I buried your file myself," he continued, his jaw tightening. "We held a memorial, folded a flag. You think you can just walk into a bar and say Phantom 6 like it's a joke?" Her tone was calm, but her gaze didn't waver. "You didn't bury me, General. You buried the truth." That stopped him cold. For a heartbeat, even the hum of the old jukebox felt louder than the air between them. "You want to do this here?" he asked finally. "Here's fine," she said, setting her beer down. "This is where I stopped hiding." McKenna sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "You never could just let things go." "Not when people die for lies," she replied quietly. "You remember Nightfall, don't you?" His expression darkened immediately. "That operation is sealed." "So is the truth," she said, her voice gaining weight now. "You told the world we went in with full intelligence and came out clean, that we saved 18 civilians with minor losses. But you and I both know that's not what happened." McKenna's tone sharpened. "Careful, Lieutenant." "Don't call me that," she snapped, her voice slicing through the stillness like a knife. It was the first time she'd raised it all night, and the sound made Eddie flinch. For a second, she looked like the soldier she'd spent years trying to forget. Jaw clenched, eyes blazing, that lethal focus radiating off her like heat. Then she exhaled and lowered her tone. "You knew the compound was heavier than intel said. You knew we were walking into a trap." McKenna's silence said everything. He stared at her, unblinking, as if waiting for her to stop talking, to stop remembering. Elena stepped closer. You left us there. His shoulders stiffened. We couldn't risk compromising the next mission. You couldn't risk your reputation, she shot back. For the first time, the general's mask cracked. His hands curled into fists. You think you know what it's like to carry that responsibility? To choose who lives and who doesn't? Her voice dropped to a whisper. I don't think, sir. I remember. He froze. And then she said it, the sentence that silenced everything. I carried 17 men out of that compound alone. You called it a success. I call it blood I can't wash off. The general's breath hitched, a tremor of guilt flickering behind his eyes. He turned away, pacing slowly, his boots heavy against the wooden floor. I signed that report to protect you, he said finally. No, she replied. You signed it to protect the program. You erased me because I wasn't supposed to survive. He turned back toward her sharply. You disobeyed a direct extraction order. I disobeyed suicide, she shot back. The tension between them crackled like static. Two forces that had once fought side by side, now standing on opposite sides of the same battlefield. Eddie stood motionless behind the counter, pretending to polish a glass that didn't exist. He'd seen bar fights, military scuffles, even old Marines drunk on guilt. But he'd never seen this. This was something sacred, something dangerous. McKenna finally spoke again, his tone quieter. You don't understand the fallout if people find out you're alive. Elena tilted her head slightly. Then maybe it's time they did. You think the public's ready for what you did in Yemen? For what we all did? His voice hardened again. You think they'll see a hero? Or a weapon that never should have been made? Her expression softened, not with sadness, but clarity. I'm not here for the public, sir. I'm here for me. The general blinked, caught off guard. For the first time in years, she continued, I said my name out loud. I didn't do it to hurt anyone. I did it because I'm done pretending I didn't exist. The old man studied her, the conflict clear in his eyes. He wasn't looking at an operative anymore. He was looking at the soldier he'd ordered into hell and the ghost that had come back to haunt him. Then came a soft knock. Walsh stepped in quietly, holding her phone. Sir, command wants your status update. McKenna waved her off. Tell them I'll call in 10. She hesitated, glancing at Elena, then stepped back out. Elena took a long breath. You don't need to protect me anymore. The world's changed. The world doesn't change, Elena, he said flatly. Only the uniforms do. She almost smiled. Maybe, but maybe that's why ghosts like me come back. To remind people what it cost. The general looked down, his voice barely audible now. I read the report. 18 saved, 1 left behind. You missed 1 more, she said softly. Me. That line hit him harder than any bullet. For a moment, the weight of years seemed to drop onto his shoulders. He wasn't a general now, just a man staring at the consequence of every decision he justified in the name of duty. He turned toward the window, his reflection fractured in the glass. I can't fix what happened, he said, but I can make sure your name stays protected. I don't want protection, she said quietly. I want peace. He met her eyes. Then stop walking into bars with ghosts. She smiled faintly, almost kind. Then stop sending them there. Behind them, the door creaked again. Cole Matthews stood there, the same SEAL who'd mocked her hours earlier, now pale and silent. His voice shook slightly as he spoke. General, is it true? McKenna hesitated then. With the kind of weary honesty that only comes once in a career, he said, Son, you're standing in front of the last person to ever carry the call sign Phantom 6. And if you're smart, you'll remember her face for the rest of your life. Cole swallowed hard, nodding slowly. Yes, sir. Elena looked at him, her gaze soft but steady. It's all right, Lieutenant. You didn't know. He met her eyes. I should have. You will now. McKenna stepped toward the door. I'll handle command. You should leave Virginia by morning. Elena shook her head. No, I'm done running. He sighed deeply. Then you'd better be ready for what comes next. What's that? She asked. Someone always comes looking for ghosts, he said, and now they know where to find you. The room fell silent again. The general turned and walked out. his escort following him into the night. Walsh gave Elena a long look before leaving too. Now only two people remained, the ghost and the soldier who'd exposed her. Cole took a step closer. What did he mean by that? Who's coming? Elena stared into her empty beer bottle for a long moment, then looked up at him. The ones who built me, she said quietly, and they don't like loose ends. The lights flickered. Outside, the rumble of black SUVs rolled past on the street. Elena stood, pulling her jacket over her shoulder. I hope you're ready, Lieutenant, she said, her voice calm but cutting, because this isn't over. And with that, she wheeled open the door and stepped into the rain, a shadow moving through the streetlights, disappearing into the night like a whisper. Somewhere behind her, a phone began to ring. Long, sharp, relentless. Eddie answered it, his face turning pale. She's gone, he said into the receiver. A pause. Then the voice on the other end spoke just two words. Find her. The street was slick with rain when Elena stepped out of O'Malley's. Thunder rolled far off the coast, the kind that promised a long storm. Streetlights flickered against puddles as black SUVs coasted down the road. Slow, deliberate, hunting. She didn't need to see the plates. She knew who they belonged to. The people who'd built her. The ones who called her Phantom 6. And the ones who didn't like seeing ghosts walk among the living. Elena pulled her hood up and moved quickly, cutting through the alley behind the bar. Her boots splashed through water, heart steady, mind sharp. The years had faded, but the training never left. Every sound registered, the hum of an engine idling, a door creak, the soft click of heels on pavement. Someone was following her. She didn't turn. Not yet. She slipped into the shadow between two buildings, her eyes scanning for reflections in glass, anything that could give her a read. Then, a voice. Lieutenant? Elena froze. From behind her, Cole Matthews stepped out of the mist. His uniform jacket was soaked, his face pale but resolute. I couldn't just let you walk out like that. She exhaled, the tension in her shoulders easing, slightly. You shouldn't have followed me. Maybe not, he said, stepping closer. But if they're coming for you, they're not taking you alone. She stared at him, the rain running in the thin lines down his face. You don't even know what you're getting into, Lieutenant. Then tell me. Before she could answer, headlights cut across the alley. 3 SUVs stopped in formation, front, side, rear. Doors opened. Men in dark suits stepped out, moving with the precision of professionals. No words, no badges. Just silence and purpose. Elena muttered under her breath. Guess the family reunion's early. Cole's hand twitched toward his sidearm, but she shook her head. No weapons. They want me breathing. How can you be sure? Because dead ghosts don't make good examples. The lead agent stepped forward, a broad-shouldered man with cold eyes and a voice like gravel. Elena Reed, he said, you've been asked multiple times to maintain operational silence. You broke it tonight. I didn't share classified intel, she said. I shared my name. He smirked faintly. Your call sign is more dangerous than your name, and you know it. Command wants you to come with us. Quietly. Cole stepped forward, jaw clenched. She's not under arrest. The man's gaze flicked to him. Lieutenant Matthews, Team 7, you've already been flagged for involvement. Stand down before you join her. Elena's hand went up. He's got nothing to do with this. The agent ignored her. Last chance, Reed. Don't make this messy. Elena stared at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then quietly she said, You always did underestimate me. And with that, she dropped the umbrella. It hit the ground with a soft clatter, just as the alley lights went out. Darkness swallowed the street. The agent swore, flashlights cutting through mist, searching for movement. But Elena had already vanished. Years of training had come back like muscle memory. How to move unseen, how to use the noise, how to breathe with the storm. Cole stayed perfectly still, his pulse hammering in his throat. He caught only glimpses, shadows moving, a shape sliding between cars, the faint reflection of a figure in the rain. And then, just as fast as it began, it was over. The alley was silent. The agents were on the ground, unharmed but disarmed, their radios gone, their vehicles disabled. Elena stepped into the light again, soaked, breathing hard but steady. "Tell command," she said, her voice even. "Ghosts don't answer summons." The lead agent glared up at her, disbelief etched across his face. "You can't outrun us forever." She looked down, rain dripping from her chin. "I don't need forever, just peace." Then she turned and walked away. Cole followed, speechless, his mind trying to catch up with what he'd just seen. When they reached the edge of the block, he finally spoke. "How long have you been running?" Elena paused under a flickering streetlight. "Since the day they told me heroes don't exist. Only assets." Her voice was soft, almost lost under the thunder. "You were right about one thing," he said. "They're not going to stop." "I know," she smiled faintly, "but neither am I." The next morning, Virginia Beach was quiet again. The papers would never mention the incident. The reports would vanish into sealed files. But in one of those files, somewhere deep in JSOC archives, someone typed a final line beneath her name. Status, untraceable, presumed at peace. At the same time, Elena sat on the pier, her boots resting near the edge, watching the sunrise burn through fog. Cole approached quietly, holding 2 coffees. She took one, nodded her thanks. They sat in silence for a while, waves breaking softly below. "You know," Cole said eventually, "when I first saw you, I thought you were just someone trying to fit in." "I was," she said. "Only thing is, I didn't realize what I was trying to fit back into was already gone." He looked at her, then at the horizon. "So what now? You just disappear again?" Elena smiled. "Not disappear. Just live. After everything you've been through?" She turned to him, her blue eyes reflecting the light. "That's exactly why." The wind carried the sound of gulls overhead. For a moment she looked peaceful, human, free. "You ever miss it?" Cole asked quietly. "The missions?" she said. "Sometimes. The purpose? Always. But you can't build a life on ghosts, Lieutenant. You just learn to walk beside them." He nodded, understanding something deeper than words. "Then maybe that's the lesson." Elena sipped her coffee, eyes still fixed on the sea. "No, the lesson's simpler." "What's that?" "Never mistake quiet for weakness. Some wars don't need guns. Just courage to live after the battle's over." A long silence settled between them, the kind that feels like the end of a story, but the beginning of something truer. Behind them, the sound of engines hummed faintly. A convoy heading toward base. New soldiers. New stories. The cycle would continue, but for her it was done. She stood, sliding her hands into her jacket pockets. "Take care of your team, Cole. Make sure they know that heroes don't always wear uniforms." He rose, saluting instinctively. "Ma'am," she shook her head. "Don't salute ghosts." And with that, she walked away, her silhouette fading against the rising sun. Cole watched her go until she vanished into the light, just another face in the crowd, but a legend walking among the ordinary. And somewhere in a Pentagon office, a general stared at a single word on his screen. Declassified. The file had been closed. The name Phantom 6 erased for good. But her story was just beginning. Because heroes don't always die on battlefields. Sometimes they just learn how to live again. If this story moved you, if you believe that real strength isn't about war, but about what comes after, then please hit that subscribe button. Every view, every share, every comment keeps stories like this alive. Stories about sacrifice, healing, and the courage to keep going when no one's watching. Don't let the ghosts of real heroes fade away. Subscribe, stand with them, and let's keep their light alive together.